Welcome to a very special edition of the Signal Conversation, in which we welcome Marc Pritchard, the Chief Brand Officer of Procter Gamble. Marc, it's so good to have you back. It's been a couple of years since we've done one of these.
It has been. It's great to be back.
Yeah, well,
always good to see you, John.
It's good to see you. Thanks for joining us. I thought we'd start this kind of a year-end conversation, and I thought we'd start by looking back at what it feels like it was only yesterday, but gosh, July is now a few months in our rearview mirror. But Signal happened in July, and I thought I'd ask you, now that you've had some time to reflect, what did you take away from it?
Well, what we did in Signal this year is we really, again, aligned it with our company strategies and tried to ensure that we had content that was going to reinforce what we're trying to do overall on our brands and on our businesses. And this year's theme was around superiority to drive market growth, and which is very important. As you well know, market growth, making markets bigger is the best way to grow. You bring in more users, you get encourage people to use more, and you also encourage people to maybe pay a little bit more because they're delighted by the product. And that was a great theme. And we had some really great speakers, and it was really, really substantive. I would say that this year's Signal, we always say this, but I think it was our best because it was so substantive, and it had the kind of substance that was going to help people be able to do their jobs better and inspire them to stretch for more. And that's the feedback we received. People really felt good about it.
Yeah, we did get quite good feedback, which terrifies me as it relates to next year.
Yeah, raise the bar again.
Raise the bar again. The theme of market growth and value creation did resonate with everyone. As you think about the year that you just had and the company just had, are there any stories about that market growth and value creation that stand out for you as it relates to the company?
Yeah, wow. We actually devoted our Global Leadership Council meetings and our Global Business Leadership Council meetings, which is we call GBLC, the top people within the company who are SVP, so Senior Vice President and above. We devoted it to how to operationalize superiority to drive profitable category growth and value creation. And there's some great examples. In fact, we had several examples that we sent out to everyone as pre-reading. There was the Charmin Smooth Tear example, the Pampers China example, the Swiffer Power Mop example, Downy Brazil as an example, Nervive North America, Head and Shoulders and Pantene, both the U.S. and in China. Trying to think of we have Dawn and Cascade and those businesses that are driving category growth, as well as Whisper India. So we had several amazing, and Gillette as well, which is very exciting. So, and Oral-B Power. So pretty much every category had an example of driving category growth and value creation. And we focused these case studies on how we built these brands across the 5 vectors of superiority: product, package, brand communication, retail execution, and value. And then talked about what we needed to do to really put this into operation across our businesses. And that was pretty exciting to be able to see so many great examples and inspire people.
Yeah. Does any one of them stand out? I mean, I don't want to, there are folks listening who may not be employees, so I don't want you to give away any trade secrets, but is there an example that you can give of one of those that you just listed that might be inspiring for those who are watching this?
Well, what was interesting about them, let me just pick, I'll just pick one just that comes to mind immediately is Oral-B Power. Starts with a consumer insight. The consumer insight is that you leave behind 50% of plaque bacteria when you use a manual toothbrush, because it's a flat toothbrush, and so it doesn't get deeply enough into the parts of your teeth and gums that will clean off the plaque bacteria. And plaque bacteria leads to a lot of stuff. That leads to cavities. It leads to it could lead to gum disease. It leads to bad breath. It leads to a lot of things that you don't want. So Oral-B Power is a superior performing product that cups that tooth and gets rid of that extra plaque bacteria, so you get a perfect clean, regardless of how your teeth may be formed. It's in an awesome package. It's in a beautifully sleek design. It's now shelved at retail in a different way, and so it makes it easy to select. It's got communication that communicates this perfect clean regardless of what your teeth are like, and it's a pretty high-priced product, yet it's a superior value, and it drives superior customer value. So it's got all of the vectors, and it has driven category growth in the high single digits, as well as the brand's growth in terms of high single digits, and clear value creation. And it still only has household penetration below 10%.
So a lot of room to grow.
So much upside.
Yeah,
exactly.
A lot of upside. Yeah, I mean, that product entered our household this year. So we're one of the, we made that 10%.
That's good. That's good. And your teeth are great, I have to admit.
There you go.
Do that, yeah.
Another question about the past year, more about your role. I mean, you've had your role for a very long time, and that's unusual. And you're an observer of the role. So I'm curious if anything has changed in your role over the past year.
You know, in the past year, I don't know about the past year, because a lot of what we focus on is what stays the same is the core strategy. That core strategy of the portfolio of products and categories where performance drives brand choice, and then delivering that superiority across those vectors, productivity to fuel that superiority, constructive disruption to always see around corners to move to the next frontier, and an agile, accountable, and empowered outcome-based organization design. Where things are different is in that strategy of constructive disruption. We have to take it to the next level. After 6 strong years of performance, which John Moeller talked about in Signal, as you recall, and really putting our company in fairly rarefied air in terms of market capitalization and performance. Behind this strategy, you know, we have to keep going, and we have to keep moving to that next level. There's lots of opportunity, as I just described that situation on Oral-B. It's a great example. 50% plaque bacteria left behind. That means there's another 50% you need to deliver. Less than 10% household penetration, huge upside, but we have to raise the bar even higher, and that requires constructive disruption. So that requires the next level of brand building performance on how do you drive superiority across all these different places that you can communicate? How do you leverage new tools out there like AI, generative AI, to be able to move faster and more effectively? How do you ensure that we merge retail and communication, because they are really coming together on e-commerce and retail media? So those are some of the area. And then how do we organize in such a way that allows us to be able to get things done on a far more integrated basis? And those are the things that I, along with my colleagues, are working on to move to that next level of constructive disruption.
I have to say it was refreshing to hear John speak about that organizational opportunity / challenge at Signal. I think that he kind of laid down a gauntlet and said, you know, we have to think about everything. And that was really honest and transparent of him. You mentioned something just now that I wanted to get to, so thank you for opening the door, because everybody's talking about AI, when I asked John about AI, his answer was pretty funny. It was a laugh line. He's like, in some respects, I just don't care, is what he said. Can you unpack that in terms of, what that means and maybe how it applies to your role?
Yeah. And I think the point is, what you need to care about is the outcome you're trying to achieve, not the tool or the technology that is available to help you achieve it. So, the industry that we're in, and particularly in my line of business and marketing, there's a new shiny object every week, and there's a new acronym and a new piece of jargon and a new concept, and AI and generative AI is the latest frontier on that, even though it's been around for quite some time. So what's important is to determine what is the outcome you're trying to achieve and how can you leverage tools to get there. And that's exactly what AI does. When we tried to figure out how do we better target, reach consumers and do it in such a way that can be broadly across all the different touch points possible, given the millions of places you can reach people, particularly online, do so in a way that is precise and then cap the frequency so you don't go back to that same person over and over again and waste money. That's called programmatic media buying, and it uses AI. So, but what we're trying to do is reach people in an unduplicated way. What we're now seeing is the ability to create ideas and advertising across every touch point, and then use something we call AI Studios, which takes the decades of research that we have and allows us to ask one question, a reaction to an ad, and then be able to compare those reactions to all the verbatims from reactions for this vast database to then score to see if this ad is going to be effective or not. That uses AI. Generative AI is now allowing us to be able to create concepts more quickly, also ideas more quickly, by putting in the right prompts in a structure to be able to come up with more and more ideas and then iterate on those ideas much faster because it generates ideas and variations of those ideas more quickly, and then evaluate them. The next frontier will be doing that with visuals and advertising. So it's a tool to achieve outcomes faster and better and more efficiently for higher degrees of effectiveness and value creation.
Yeah. And a lot of that was on display at Signal. So I would maybe we'll put into the bottom of this, put some of the links of those presentations, which were great, from the team that had built some of those tools. As long as we're looking forward, we get to break a little bit of news here. I understand there is some change coming to the Signal event itself, in terms of when and where. Well, where will be the same, but kind of inside of what. So can you tell us all what's coming for Signal?
Yeah, first of all, it's probably important to frame that Signal has always been around seeing around corners and finding the signals and then bringing them into our company so we can inspire people to look at new ways of doing things and think about how to be able to build our business by seeing what others are doing, so bringing the outside in. We've evolved, as you well know. We started with generally digital marketing and then moved into our entire business across all vectors. And this last one was probably the most, as I said, focused on the 5 vectors of superiority to drive profitable category growth and value creation. We've been thinking about this for a while because we always said, you know what? Maybe we ought to combine Signal with our year-end meetings, which is what I mentioned before, the GBLC meetings, where we have all of the senior vice presidents and above who come into Cincinnati and have an opportunity to be able to engage. And so we do Signal, find all these great external speakers, and then 6 weeks later, we do the year-end meetings, and we're always searching for outside speakers for inspiration.
Right.
we said, what if we combined them? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to combine these two events. So we'll have a portion where we'll have Signal, the plenary activity, which will have external stimulation and engagement. It'll be open to everyone, continue to be open to everyone. And then we'll then have workshops at the same time, as we've always done, and make those available. We'll probably do some special workshops for the leadership, so they can kind of go into the next couple of days on their leadership meetings. And it'll be a great combination. So we'll get external inspiration still for everyone, and then we'll have some leadership workshops, and we'll have some workshops for the broader teams to be able to continue to move forward.
So it's going to be quite a week in September with Signal and leadership meetings all that week, plus the workshops and everything else. It'll be, a bigger stage, although at the same place. Yeah.
At the same place. Yeah. At the same place. And we'll, I think it'll be good because, if you think about what we did this last year and what we've done in the last couple of years, we've had the same theme for Signal that we've had for the GBLC leadership meetings.
Right.
But since they're disconnected, I'm not sure the dots connected.
Right.
And we want to make sure the dots connect for everyone.
Well, it's exciting. I'm looking forward to it. All right, last question. As the longest serving chief brand and marketing officer, really that I can think of in the Fortune 500, I just have to ask you, because I got you here for the first time in a few years, what's the secret to longevity? I think the average time that in your seat is about 2 or 3 years. You're well past that on multiples. So what's the secret to longevity in this role?
I actually think there are 3 things. One is this job is about focused on the business, the full business. It's not uniquely focused on, narrow slices of marketing or brand building. P&G is a company of brands. Brands are the manifestation or manifest in the 5 vectors of superiority. So, and those 5 vectors of superiority are focused on meeting consumer needs in order to be able to grow categories and drive value creation. So productivity is a major part of this. So that wheel that we talked about in terms of the strategy, that's what this job is about. And I have many conversations with CMOs, and they say, well, how do you get your CEO and your CFO to value what you're doing? You focus on what the core strategy of the company is and what the brands are, and you deliver value creation. So that's one thing. And the second point I would say is I've said this before in a few places, so if I'm repeating, I apologize. I pretend to fire myself every 18 months. So I rehire myself right away so John doesn't find out, or before he finds out. But the concept there is to come in fresh. Try to come in fresh every 18 months. And why 18 months? Typically, it's the average CMO timetable, but it's also Moore's law of doubling data every 18 months, which now I understand doubles information every 18 months. So things change so quickly. You've got to come in fresh every 18 months and not be so wedded to what you've been doing that it gets stale. So but it also honors knowledge from the past. So using all the things that you know from the past while still looking at the future in a very fresh perspective. And that helps constantly constructively disrupt. And the last point I would say is, back again, my job is about serving the business, serving the people in the business, serving and serving our consumers. So I like to focus on being useful. So being useful, when you're useful, then, everything kind of pays forward. You think less about yourself, you think more about how you can help others. And so that's what this is about. And in my view, this job is about being useful to others and serving and supporting. And when you do that, hopefully people keep asking you for help. And I'm always happy to help.
Well, it is always good to talk with you, Marc. Thank you so much for your time. I'm looking forward to working with you on the September version of Signal.
Yeah.
And we're going to have to get to work pretty soon here. So I'll let you sign off for now, but look forward to seeing you again. Thanks very much for joining us for this Signal conversation.
Thank you, John. Thanks for everything you do for us.
Absolutely.